I still see those searchlights, and I see the whole court filled with soldiers. That was a vision that never went away.
Welcome to the Supernatural Travel Tales podcast. I'm Sharon Blumenfeld, your Woo Curious tour guide. Every week I'll be taking you on an adventure, sharing unbelievable stories with a supernatural twist. We're going beyond the bucket list to talk about the experiences that transform us. Amazing things happen when we check our baggage and open ourselves up to the unknown. You won't want to miss the fabulous guests I have lined up for you, so please subscribe and check out the supernaturaltravel.com website for even more information about the people, places, and experiences shared on these episodes. On this episode, I sat down with my own mother to capture one of the crazier family stories that gets retold around the dinner table. I was only a baby when this happened, so I don't have a personal memory of it, but it definitely had an impact on the rest of my family. This experience transported my mom thousands of miles to a place she'd never visited before, but it all happened without her leaving home.
I remember it very vividly. I was in bed, and suddenly I heard noises out in my courtyard. And at the same time, as I looked towards my windows, my bedroom windows, I saw a great big white light shining in my window, like a big searchlight would look. And I got up out of bed, and I ran to the window to look out, and I could see the searchlight, but I didn't know where it was coming from. And I ran to the front of the house to look out the window, and I thought I saw things out in my courtyard. So I ran to the front door, opened up the door, and when I looked out in the courtyard, there were all soldiers and trucks coming with more soldiers, and the whole courtyard was filled with army people. And I got very, very upset, and I ran back into my bedroom and woke up my husband and said, we're being attacked. There's a war going on. I don't know who's out there, but there's all soldiers in the courtyard. And he got up and he went to look and he said, Ruth, there's no one out there. I said, my God, how could you say that? Look, they're all over there. Look at the light coming in through the window. I hear it. It's all the way down by the railroad tracks. And he said, you must be dreaming. And I said, it's not a dream. How could you say you don't see it or hear it? And it was the most clear thing I could possibly do. I was horribly upset. I sat down, and he took a wet washcloth and put a wet washcloth on my face, and I still could see the things. And it took me about a half hour, and then all of a sudden they were all gone, and I couldn't fall back to sleep for the rest of the night because it was just too upsetting. And the next morning, lo and behold, that was the exact time when the war started. And so the soldiers and all that I had seen was a projection of what was going on in another part of the world.
Do you have any idea why you made that connection or why you had that vision? Was there any connection that you were aware of?
No, there wasn't. I really don't know what that was. I think it actually was a holiday, and I just don't know. I remember it so vividly to this day, even though it's so many years. I still see those searchlights, and I see the whole court filled with soldiers. That was a vision that never went away.
So there was about a half-hour period that you said that you could still see. You were looking out.
Yes, I could still see it. I just couldn't stop seeing it and seeing the lights and hearing the motors from the trucks. And I could not understand how no one else could hear or see it. By that time, I had woke up my children also.
And no one else
see it. Saw it, only I.
Is this the only time you ever had that kind of an experience?
To that extent, yes.
So, had you been watching the news earlier?
No. There was nothing, and I had been sleeping for a while before this woke me up.
When you finally learned that, the war had started in Israel and, did it all come together and make sense to you immediately?
Yes, it did. I realized because I had seen the soldiers. It was just like you were watching a movie. That's the way it looked.
Could you hear the soldiers?
Yes. I could hear the motors in the trucks running.
And were they speaking? Could you tell if they were speaking English or speaking Hebrew?
No, that I couldn't tell. I don't think I actually heard voices. I heard just sounds of the motors and people just, sounds of, and the bright searchlights.
So how did you learn what was going on? What was the clue when you found out?
When I heard the news the next day, I put two and two together.
Did you turn on the television or?
Not that night, no. The next morning.
And what did your husband say when he heard?
Well, no one could understand it because they knew what I was saying, but no one else saw it except me.
So you've never had another experience like this?
Not to that extent, no.
Like to any other extent?
Just vague things. Just, suddenly a vague sense of foreboding and something bad would happen or something like that. But nothing like this experience. This is very unique.
So.
And it made me afraid for a long time afterwards. I was afraid of dreaming. Because I was afraid. But the thing is about this was I was up out of bed and walking around. I was not in bed dreaming. I got up out of bed and looked outside and walked around. And so it was different than any type of dream.
I like to ask people for a reality check. After you had this experience, do you feel like it changed you?
I don't know if it changed me. It just made me very fearful. And it made me wonder always when I would have a dream or something, how much was going for real and how much was it a psychic experience. It made me very uneasy for a long time afterwards.
So you didn't particularly care for this newfound ability of yours?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And it's not something that you ever tried to cultivate?
Not at all.
Would you encourage other people to cultivate it?
I don't know how you could cultivate it. It's not something that you cultivate. It just happens or it doesn't happen.
Why do you think it happened to you?
I have no idea. I really don't know. Maybe I was psychically sensitive. Who knows?
Well, thank you for sharing this story. It's a story I've heard most of my life, and it still baffles me to this day. And I wonder especially why that moment. What was the connection? But I guess it's one of those things that we'll never know.
We'll never know.
And many years later, you traveled to Israel.
Yes.
Did you feel any sense of connection when you were there, or did you think back on that dream or that vision?
I did think back on it, and I wondered. And sometimes when certain areas in Israel, when you were at the wall or when I was in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and was down where the dungeons were, I got funny feelings and could almost feel like there were ghosts talking to me. There was also one time when I was up in Cooperstown, New York, and there was a little shop, a very old shop, and I actually felt in that old shop that there was other people sitting next to me. But that's about the only other thing that I can remember that ever gave me any psychic feelings.
It's interesting, all these things happened when you were away from home, these other experiences, but the experience where you had this vision
was in my house, and in my bedroom is where it started.
In your house and in your bedroom, but physically, but mentally half a world away.
Yes, yes.
So in a way, you traveled.
I time traveled.
You space traveled.
Well, I
It
don't
was
know
the same
whatever you
time.
would call it. But that's when it was happening.
It was definitely supernatural.
Yes.
The year, of course, that all this happened was 1973. It was the eve of Yom Kippur, and my parents, who observed the holiday of Yom Kippur, had no idea about the war in Israel until the next day when they turned on the news. What baffles me to this day about this is why my mom had this vision. I think the technical term is remote viewing. It's an uncommon but well-documented psychic phenomenon. But why her? Why this war? She had never been to Israel, she didn't have any close family or friends there, and she didn't have any particular affinity for Israel. I'd love to hear from you. What do you think? Have you ever experienced remote viewing? Leave me a comment on supernaturaltravel.com. And just another reminder to make sure you're subscribed. Next week, we're exploring a ritual shamanic cleansing in Ecuador. My guest will be Jose Harvey from the travel blog My Normal Gay Life, and you don't want to miss what happened when Jose and his somewhat skeptical mate underwent this ceremony. Thanks again to my mom for joining me. I never get sick of her stories, and many, many thanks to you for listening. If you want to get in touch, shout out this episode or ask a question, you can reach me on Twitter, where I'm at SupernatTravel, or on the Supernatural Travel Facebook page. And if you're on Instagram, please make sure to follow us and tag at Supernatural Travel. And please join our community by sharing photos with us with the hashtag Supernatural Travel. I want to see your blue orbs, and I'd love to follow your travels too. So that's it till next time. Smooth sailing, fly and drive safe, and keep those wanderlust fires burning. When the going gets weird, I totally want to hear about it.